G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talk Stuff Ukraine War Update for the 14th of April 2026. Now as the war continues, I will continue to be your reliable source of social and political commentary from inside the manosphere. I will bring you comprehensive Ukraine war updates and we'll discuss the war on Russia and other military news. We have the as you know, the Straits of Hormuz, the Americans are now blockading. Any ship that's coming from a Iranian port, including those who have paid the toll, will be turned back. Now, if anybody attempts to run the blockade or could protect their shipping, they will, of course, find themselves sanctioned. So, you're all at a stalemate now. Europe has to get off their ass and actually do something. But no, Europe wants a blank check from the United States. They want a blanket guarantee for the United States to protect European security. NATO apparently is only there to protect European security, which means protect the woke from the consequences of their actions. Remember, the woke, they support Ukraine. They want unlimited funds. They want boots on the ground. They want, not them. No. The liberal establishment. No, don't send our children to her. They're too valuable. They're college students. They're a value to society. Send the working class. And of course, you've seen it, right? All of a sudden, all the recruitment posters, they're all white. All the Germany and whatever is started to appease, and of course you've seen what happened in Hungary, right? Hungary seemingly 100% supporting Viktor Orban. Suddenly, George Soros and Alex says, "Hey, well, we want you to support the political party that is going to support Ukraine, or you won't have oil." And ta-da! They lose in an alleged landslide. Despite the fact that, again, big numbers turned out for Viktor Orban, but somehow 2/3 majority. Yeah. Of course, the EU said, this is a victory for outside interference. They consider an American politician. It's only outside interference when it's not in our favour, of course, because isn't Alex Soros? He's not European. Oh, he's born in Hungary. No, he wasn't. He was born in the New York hospital. George Soros, he's born in Hungary. No, he wasn't. There is no evidence that he was born in Hungary. He magically appeared at the age of 14. That's all we know for true. Okay. And we know that's not his real name. He's a war criminal who is protected from the consequences of his actions because he told on a few people and does some magic work for the Democrats. And so he's an asset. And so he gets away with everything. And there just seems to be no telling the right. It just doesn't seem to be. I'm going to continue, though, until I'm blue in the face, telling you, right? This is why you can't have nice things. Now, before we get to the major news, I'd just like to point out the war on the front. Kharkiv has just been hit. Short time ago, Dnipro was hit again, and Odessa, it was hit earlier today. Dnipro was hit earlier today, but it was also hit ballistic missile strike allegedly, and some drones. Now, the Russian front has begun in earnest. Also a drone strike on Kremorsk. And as you can see, all the usual areas, points of contact, all pretty much opened up about, 3 hours ago. 4 hours ago. But what happened? 4 hours ago, Ukraine attacked Russia. So Russia responded. So before the Easter truce came to an official end, Ukraine attacked Russia first. The world will turn a blind eye. And once again, Zelensky gets away with everything. And you wonder why we can't have nice things. Zelensky is why you can't have nice things. Now, Russia, of course, is not entirely fighting for its life, but it soon will be. Germany, Spain, Brussels, UK, they're all talking about war with Russia now. And, well, this isn't exactly a new concept, using a artillery, mounting an artillery gun on a tank. Self-propelled artillery is not new. But what is... Well, it is a new version of artillery. In fact, it's more considered rocket artillery. It is a 152.3 millimeter rocket-assisted projectile. This is your World War II KV-1, where Russia mounted artillery guns onto a tank chassis. Now, believe it or not, that's exactly how tanks started. It's actually, technically, it was an artillery gun mounted on the side, on a side rotation with a little bit of elevation. But this is a low trajectory. So instead of lobbing shells at a long range, which is what artillery does, this fires a low trajectory, fin stabilized artillery shell from a tank in. So there it is. So this is a test projectile. This is out of order, obviously, because the other day, this is older footage, obviously, because the other day, Russia announced that and showed that its new 152, I think they called it a tank artillery shell, M3, yeah, works both in howitzer and their new tank. There it is. Yeah. Fin stabilized, rocket propelled artillery. But it's also low trajectory, which makes it a tank rather, but so it can fulfill both roles, both as artillery. As you can see, it starts as a crude barbarelle. I think that's the proper term for it. It's not a. It's bigger than it's. Basically, it's remote controlled. Yeah, it's low. It's self-loaded. Yeah, ads. Oh, gosh. All right. So, yeah, as you can see, it comes out of the barrel at a fairly high rate of spin. It has a mini turret, but those are in concept. Most of them are, 12.7 millimeter on top. Remote, those will be upgraded and changed. There you can see. There it is with the. I think it's still called a tall configuration, although it doesn't have the rockets on the side. But that, I believe, is an illustration. It's a test shell, but not sure which. But it can destroy vehicles, armored targets, carries a range of ammunition, most of it rocket assisted. That actually can fire an RPG shell. It's literally rocket propelled. basically like a rocket-propelled grenade. It's a high-explosive anti-tank round. So, same as so like an RPG. High-explosive anti-tank. And it can be backed up, and, well, the same rounds can be fired from artillery. It uses the same auto-loading system, which is about 12 shots for the big cannon. That has the that's the muzzle. The muzzle flash is huge. There's the test of the. Now, I know the American designation is, they are testing a new range of tanks and firepower, including remote tanks, but there it is. It's a T90 with two C-35, 152mm. Now, rocket assist gives it a huge range. Huge. There it is. Huge range. 80-kilometre range on a tank, which is way more than standard 153 artillery. And 153 artillery already outranges the most of the D20s. Remember, the majority of artillery on the Ukrainian side are 120mm, not 155s. 155s are the Caesars, the M777s, and the Crab. The native Ukrainian gun, they're claiming is 155, but it's actually captured 153s rebarreled. They are... Now, where do they capture them from? Well, Russia's not going to win in every battle and lose every battle. Neither is Ukraine. But Ukraine is lately on the back foot. And Putin, he wanted to show the world that Ukraine can't be trusted. And he's proven it to the Russian people. Unfortunately, the world, particularly Belgium and Spain, just want to keep forking out more money into Ukraine. It's a fetish at this point. They're obsessed. They're obsessed. They can't accept they're not winning. Now, Belgium wants to normalise racial relations with Russia to resume peace talks. They realise they've made a huge mistake by isolating Russia, withdrawing all their ambassadors, withdrawing all their investments, seizing Russian assets, and because Russia won't talk to them. Belgium realises they have to negotiate, that bullying Russia just doesn't work. And Ukraine's upset, of course, that they're doing that. That's why they're publishing the article, right? Belgium supports increasing pressure on Russia backing Ukraine. Liars. Ukraine is obsessed with controlling Europe, using their own woke politics against them. But here's the reality. Russian diplomats again stood up in the UN and read out, and Russia's permanent representative to the UN, Vasily Nevaria, has slammed the European Union for its hypocrisy and double standards, right? He's talking about how while they won't support the war in Iran, they support the war in Ukraine. It's either one or the other, not both at the same time. Why? What's the difference? Well, their hypocrisies, double standards, hypocrisies come into light. That they're not about engaging in honest dialogue. They torpedoed every peace talk between Russia and Ukraine. They've permanently set about funding any politician who is Russophobic all across Europe, not just in Ukraine. You've seen how they rigged the election against Viktor Orban. Again, I'll repeat what happened. after JD Vance, JD Vance was getting all the limelight. Alex Soros was going around telling all the business people, all the trade unions, that if they don't get rid of Viktor Orban, there'll be no oil for Ukraine, there'll be no pipelines, there'll be nothing. They'll be cut off from all funding, all trade. That he'll make sure that none of them, right? And then, of course, he dumped money, $1 billion, buys elections, apparently. And suddenly, Viktor Orban went from having 70% of the vote to less than 30% of the vote overnight on the election day. All because Ukraine is Alex's project. And anything that Soros touches should turn to immediately. None of you should support Ukraine. Soros has taken over Hungary, says Elon Musk. This claims to be the death of populism. In a recent speech, Soros says Trump is next. We'll defeat him in Canada. So, what's going on there. Though the Open Society Foundation was forced to leave Hungary, and the so-called Stop Soros campaign was working, the OCF, instead of coming to Hungary, the Hungarians were coming to so-called conservatives, right? They're not conservative. It's the horseshoe theory. The far left, far right are just masks worn by greedy, evil people. Whoever they could appeal to at the largest, right? Look at Hassan Piker. Talks about the left all the time. He's a landowner with over 30 properties. Nothing he wears is under 10. He wears $10,000 worth of clothes daily. This is the problem with the worship of success, the worship of money. The left is greedier than the right. The working class has been betrayed, but constantly by British Labour and the Liberals around the world. Nothing more than little L British Labour. Even, American Democrats, the so-called social progressives, just socialists, okay? Just call yourself socialists. And, of course, socialists is really government capitalism, where both the government is both the owner and the regulator of themselves, but really they're regulating you to make sure that they stay in power. That is the reality of socialism. You will own nothing and they will exploit you. So, Ukraine, I recently told you about how Norway was training Ukraine to board ships, to kill the crew and leave the ship drifting. Now, allegedly, there have been 3 ships found drifting in the ocean, 3 containers, ships, and oil ships, allegedly pirated. It's believed Ukraine has begun targeting the Russian merchant fleet, backed by NATO intelligence support. NATO is now taking an active role in trying to dismantle the Russian economy so that they could grow their own. This is the reality of the Ukraine war. It is a proxy war by failed politicians, by failed businessmen, by those who cannot succeed by fair means. They turn to foul every time. They create conditions of war so that you have no choice but to go to war. And they fund both sides. Remember, remember, Soros made his bones selling arms to the Ayatollah before and the Iranian Revolution. Okay? The Lord of War is not about some Russian. That's something they made up recently because more and more people like myself have been pointing out for years. It was George Soros is the Lord of War. Why do you think he funded that movie, Lord of War? Why do you think he framed a Russian businessman in a rival in Thailand who was there selling Russian oil to the Thais, right? And suddenly he's arrested by the DEA because he was allegedly engaged in and in prison. Turned out, right, he was framed. He was the one lured to a business meeting with drug lords and arms dealers under the guise of buying Russian gas and oil. And before he even could present anything, before anything was said, he was raided and arrested, right? There is no evidence against him other than some international warrant, which was cooked up in the labs of Belgium and the UK, aka British intelligence and the European fascists, right? George Soros has a lifelong dream of bringing down America and Russia so that we can have an open society. And yet you won't take him seriously as a threat. He is a war criminal, protected under Operation Paperclip. And he's a good little puppet of the Democratic Party. He is nothing more than a sock puppet, right? George Soros was never a free man, but he is always a protected man, as long as he's doing the bidding of the establishment. The war in Europe is a product of the woke. Remember, they want to destroy society, so anything they want, whether it is Ukraine, so remember, those who support the war in Ukraine are the same people who says, hands off Iran. So as far as I'm concerned, why are you supporting Ukraine? Why is anyone supporting Ukraine? And I know a lot of you aren't supporting Ukraine, but I'm talking to those who are. Why are you supporting Ukraine when you know what they really are? But I suspect those who support Ukraine are exactly the same people. They are wearing a mask of conservative or Christian or Jew, when we all know, right, they are out to destroy the West. They failed in World War I, so they created World War II. The Rothschilds failed. Right, the Americans did not use the nuclear bomb on Europe as pushed, but they eventually were forced by Stalin to use the nuclear bomb, even though they didn't need to. But the world may never know the truth, but you do. There is an evil in this world that we must fight and always fight, and George Soros is merely the bagman for that banking cartel. Thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. Please support the channel and support me on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, buy my merch. I am constantly under harassment, shadow banned, so clicking that like button and commenting below breaks the algorithm. See you in the next video. Bye for now.